Resolution.
So it's 7 o'clock.
Let's call this meeting to order. June 16th, 7 o'clock, the GBO. Yeah, back over.
No,
Okay.
no, why we have that.
The Girdwood Board of Supervisors, its committees and subcommittees are subject to the Alaska Open Meetings Act. It's found in Alaska Statute 44.16.310 and Anchorage Municipal Code 1.25 Public Meetings. The Board of Supervisors operates under the Girdwood Public Meetings Standards of Conduct. Calling to order now, just shortly after 7 o'clock. My name is Jennifer Wingard. I'm co-chair. We can the landing.
I would. The Girdwood Board of Supervisors acknowledges the indigenous peoples of Alaska whose land we reside on. The community of Girdwood, situated between the areas known to be the Dena'ina and the Luthic homeland, respect the people who were stewards of this land for generations. We commit to the continued stewardship of this land and are grateful to be a part of a wider community that seeks to maintain a sustainable use of Girdwood Valley.
Right. Margaret, would you like to do roll call?
Sure. We'll start in the room with Brian Burnett
Here.
and Brianna Sullivan
Present.
and Kelly Okonek. Online. Kelly, I had to mute everybody, so you may need to come off mute. Anyway, we can.
Yeah, no, sorry, I was just walking over. Yeah, Kelly Okonek on the phone.
Thank you. And Mike Edgington.
Present.
Thank you. And then wrapping up with Jennifer.
Yes.
Thank you.
Quick order of business. Mike, are you okay with me chairing since I'm in the room? I don't know if it's my turn or your turn. I didn't talk about it.
Yes, please.
Okay. All right. Announcements. The public is encouraged to ask questions and provide comment. Please raise your hand and wait to be acknowledged. To help discussion stay productive, please direct your comments to the board rather than other members of the public. Keep your comments focused on the business under discussion. Please be respectful of everyone's opinions. We have a parliamentary and procedure and an ethics training tomorrow at noon. Anyone is welcome to attend that. We have some specific questions about GBUS, but that is open to the public. Our first budget meeting is set for Monday, July 7th at 10 a.m. We have an MOA quarterly meeting Monday, July 28th at 4 p.m. That one's in Anchorage. GBOS work session budget meeting number 2 just got set today for Monday, August 11th at 4 p.m. And we've got rules and procedures as will be to be announced. At this point, do we have any changes? Sorry, we need to move to approve the agenda.
Move to approve tonight's agenda.
Second.
I'd like to amend the agenda. Removing item number 8 is in consent, so we don't need it under consent. And number 7, I haven't been informed, but I need someone else to clarify where we put number 7 for next month.
Yeah, I think number 7 next month.
Okay,
That was Kelly.
so that's a motion to amend the agenda with those 2 changes. We need a second on that.
Could you,
Second, yeah, I'll second that.
Okay.
And after the second, could I ask for the clarification on number 7? Description of why.
I think I can offer the description of why. And it could be that Chief is able to provide some insight, but Chief and Kyle haven't had an opportunity to talk again since we started in on this topic. And so we just wanted to be able to provide a more comprehensive idea, particularly having to do with the dispatch services. So I think we just need a little more time. And although we do want to get this project underway, we also think that there's a month. So if we talk about it next month, that will still give us plenty of time.
Thank you.
And I see that Chief Ashe is online. Did you want to add anything to that?
Not really. I briefly chatted with Kyle just earlier this afternoon or late this afternoon, and he wanted to bring it up at the next GBOS meeting, and hopefully by then I'll have a little bit more concrete information to go on. Tomorrow at the Whittier City Council meeting, it's actually on the agenda under executive session to discuss the contract as well. So hopefully I get more guidance from the city of Whittier and get more information to present to Girdwood.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion. It's been seconded. Do we have any discussion or any dissension about making that change, making those changes to the agenda?
Could you?
Sure, Mike, you cut out. Did you want me to clarify what those, oh, yeah, did you want me to clarify?
Item 8, please, yes.
Yeah, we're having a hard time hearing you, Mike, but the changes were that item number 8 is on the consent agenda and item number 7 is just to be deferred to next month.
Okay, so with, I'm going to assume since we're not hearing anything, Mike, did you have anything?
I can, hopefully you can hear me now.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, I didn't catch. I was just trying to check. I heard the status of item 7 to be postponed to next month. I was just trying to catch the item 8. Was that to move to the consent agenda?
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay, so if we have no further discussion or disagreement with those changes, we're going to, I would take a motion to approve the, or actually, then we have the agenda as amended. Okay, and then we will, if there are no disagreements about that, we're going to assume by assent that we have an agenda approval and we are moving forward. Okay, minutes from May 19th. Entertain a motion to approve those.
Second,
Hey, any discussion or changes? All right, any dissent? We will take it by assent that those minutes are now approved. Moving on to the consent agenda, letter of non-objection for the license for a retail marijuana store in the Herbal Cache. We have no objections to that, then we will move forward with that as yes, it's up on the screen, the letter, our letter of non-objection. All right, so do we have any discussion about that item, or that's the only item on the consent agenda? Right, and if we have no disagreement about that, I'm going to take this as an assent and move forward with as that is on consent. Okay. Presentations, starting with, actually, I didn't see if Kathy Giesel is on today. But Kai is here in the room, so we start with you.
Wonderful, thanks. So Kai Holland, Representative House District 9. I've got a couple handouts here I wanted to take a moment to go over. Can I bring this up here through?
Sure.
Yeah, it works out here. Here. So we're back from the session. And obviously the big news is the veto from the governor that came out last week. I just flew in a few minutes ago from Trapper Lake. I was ready to fly back last week, the moment those vetoes came out, to run down to Juneau to be a part of overriding that. That's not going to happen. Yeah. I wish it was. I'm getting a tremendous amount of feedback in terms of people like us to take up the education funding that are pretty upset that the education funding was cut as much as it was. Keep in mind that the funding that was in our operating budget would have added exactly $20 out of over $6,000 to the BSA amount. And, you know, we thought we had reached a compromise on essentially agreeing to flat fund education for this year. And to see it cut the way it was demoralizing, quite frankly. So I want to, you know, begin by just saying thank you to so many parents and teachers and people that are reaching out, that are advocating for the schools. And importantly, I just so much appreciate that people are still fighting for their schools. They're not giving up. It is so hard right now to, be listening to the stories of parents and teachers that are saying, how do we do this? So anyway, it's been a tough week at this point. I really enjoyed being down in Juneau and representing the district, and getting a chance to drive down today is just one more reminder of what a cool, fabulous district this is. So thank you for all the support that I've gotten through the course of this. A couple things I just want to mention. The handout I gave you gives you kind of a rundown of what I've been up to. You sent me down there to do a few things. I tried doing those, keeping in mind that job one for your representatives and legislature is passing a budget. So the operating budget and the capital budgets were certainly issues we had to work on, albeit with terrible constraints in terms of the amount of money. We had no money for any of the CAPSIS projects. So your culvert project and some of the other ones that were in there across, nobody's CAPSIS projects across the whole state got any money. Essentially what you see on the back of this sheet are the capital projects that did get funded. And at quick check today, these ones did survive the vetoes, but they're essentially simply the federal projects that already have this 90% match on it. And those were the ones that were protected in the capital budget, was all the federal money in there. So you will see some Seward Highway projects that are still in there for some of the work along the Seward Highway development. But on the other side, you see the rest of the areas, the economic development, the education, the energy and technology, infrastructure, wildfires. And then down at the bottom, a list of some community initiated legislation I was able to help carry forward at the request of people that wanted me to take these issues forward. And we've got all of these introduced in different ways. And in particular, the Chugach State Park one was actually initiated by Senator Giesel, and she led the charge of getting that done. It's another little step in improving access to the Chugach State Park in there. So I thought I'd take a second and let staff Shana Kilcoyne talk a little bit about the renewable portfolio standard, because it's one of the key energy areas of focus that we've been working on. But I also wanted you to get to know her. She's been so instrumental. And if you're looking for somebody who knows energy and all the different issues around energy, I'm so fortunate to have her help out. So I thought I'd take a second, because this will be one of the focus areas of the interim. And as I committed when I ran for this office, this was going to be my full-time job for 2 years. So I didn't just go down to do the session and I'm going to go disappear and then come back for the session. I'm here. I'm going to be here for 2 years. You can find me down at the Legislative Information Office. You're going to find me still coming to the community meetings like I started doing last year in order to be accessible. But before I wrap up and let Shana talk about the renewables, I will just offer, if anyone is not getting my newsletter, please sign up, send me an email. We've got some sheets here. I also just want to acknowledge I'm going to be going down to Whittier tomorrow and giving them a citation we developed, recognizing the importance of their police and their EMS services. And of course, they're so vital to Girdwood. I just thought that you would want to know that we're recognizing how important they've been to the safety and the response in this area of the highway. So thanks for a moment. I'll let Shana talk a second about what we're doing renewable portfolio standards. And then if there's any questions, I'd love to take those. Thank you for a moment.
Hi, great to be here. Thanks for having me. So my background is in energy, not staffing a legislator, so that was the real learning experience for me this session. And we did have a lot of energy policy that we worked on, but I think one of the really big pieces that we've been working on diligently is called a renewable portfolio standard. I think probably many of you are engaged and know that we are, over 80% dependent on Cook inlet gas for electric, and then about 100% for heating. And that's not a great place to be, because our Cook inlet gas, unfortunately, is dwindling. We, of course, are hearing about a gas pipeline, but in the meantime, we also need to look at diversifying our portfolio of energy sources. And so a renewable portfolio standard is a policy that is in effect in 30 plus states and DC in the lower 48. And it just says that utilities, you have to get some percentage of your energy sources from renewables by a certain date. So ours, for example, is 40% by 2030, and 55% by 2035. So we've got a ways to go. Chugach is actually they're in a better place since Girdwood is all Chugach Electric Association serviced. a little bit better place and have been working on solar. They just created a community solar project that is oversubscribed. They've been pursuing a fairly large wind project at Little Mount Susitna. I don't know if people are hearing much about that. So they are pursuing renewable energy. It's challenging. We're used to gas, and so renewables are different and are going to be challenging to integrate, but it's doable. We know from all over the world that it can be done, especially in rural Alaska. So this is a hard policy. We're going to keep working at it. We've got a lot of work to do this interim. We've been working really closely with Chugach Electric and all the other utilities on the rail belt electric system, the grid, because they all need to work together on this. But always happy to talk to people about energy issues in the district.
Thanks. Any questions for?
Yeah, thanks for coming down. My name's Steve Alverson. Wasn't prepared, but is geothermal a part of things? Is that a possible thing here?
Absolutely.
We heard a lot of this about the volcano. And does that fall under a renewable since it's constantly bubbling?
Absolutely, it could, yeah. And Homer Electric is working with Geo Alaska. We actually brought them into the Energy Committee, and I think maybe you know, Kai co-chairs the Energy Committee. And so we brought Geo Alaska in and heard all about that project. Happy to send you the link. Absolutely.
Oh, good. Okay, thank you.
So it can create heat, can create electricity. There are different ways to do it. You do have to build a line to St. Augustine or Mount Augustine. But they're looking at 200 plus megawatts, which is a third of our load.
That's another quick add on to that. So with the state, I just feel like UAA should be like a world leader in geothermal. They don't seem to have it. Is that something the state owns, or is that UAA?
Well, the state has a
Do they work together? Does the state work with UAA?
Oh, yeah, they do. And UAA has, or UAF has
UAA.
done some work on geothermal. I don't know about UAA so much. The Alaska Center for Energy and Power has been a big source of that.
Okay.
And then the Renewable Energy Fund is run through the state of Alaska, and that helps a lot of projects kind of get off the ground, especially in early stages.
I'll go back to the chair.
Of course, yes, thank you. I actually see that we have a question from Brett online.
Thank you. Maybe a quick question. I used to work in Brett Wilbanks, PO Box 512 in Girdwood. I used to work in hydroelectric with Homer Electric, actually. But my question to you is, do you consider hydroelectric as a renewable?
We absolutely do. The state of Alaska does. The state of Alaska has been advocating for hydropower to be considered renewable. Other states have different sources of hydropower, different issues that they're dealing with, but we have plenty of hydropower that we believe can be developed in a environmentally friendly way. We have resources that, would not be harmful to fish. Of course, all those have to be studied and permitted, but we certainly have plenty of hydro opportunity.
Can I ask a quick follow-up then, based on that?
Sure, Brett.
Thank you. So then does Chugach support or oppose the dismantling of the Eklutna hydroelectric facility?
I believe their position was they were still kind of working on it, but they are not supporting dismantling it at this moment. And there's definitely some nuance there that I feel a little bit behind on. Are you aware?
No, I wouldn't want to touch that right now. That's been a complicated issue. I'd really prefer to let Chugach, because I know they've worked very hard on this issue.
Right, and we got a little backwards there. Do we have any questions from the board?
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
She did. Chief Wesson, you had your hand up, but then did you get your question answered?
No, but it wasn't a renewable energy type question. I just wanted to know if the representative had any insight into the wildfire forestry funding that was cut from the budget, and if that was related to a loss of federal match funding that was anticipated, or if it was something else.
Yeah, thanks for the question. Let's do the chair. understand this funding was state funding that may be matched, but in essence, what is happening is, if you recall, going back a year, and I'm foggy on this is a new issue. We underfunded fire mitigation last year, in which case we had to add in another 30 or so million dollars in the supplemental this year to catch up on the funding. This year, the budget was trying to fund what was anticipated for the whole year in order to avoid doing a supplemental next spring. So what's been done is, in essence, the governor, as I understand it, has essentially cut us back to where we were kind of a year ago and setting us up for having to do a supplemental in the springtime. So it looks like a cut at the moment, but it's actually just going to catch up and bite us later. So I think in the end, it takes it out, but it doesn't relieve the fact that the money will have to get spent if there are fires, and we will have to see a supplemental in the spring next year to pay the bill.
Thank you for that. I know today there's a number of wildfires brush fires have started on the Kenai, and there's some fires up in the interior. So fire season, although late, is starting. So I appreciate your answer. That's a good answer. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And just if I can follow up, please. Thank you. Through the chair, again, the wildfire resolution that I led going back, into February came out of our local community concerns here and the work I've been doing with all of the community councils and Girdwood around the early dry season we had this year. And I think we were successful in bringing a lot of attention back in February and March to the concern. And one of the benefits was that it caused the fire season this year to be advanced up to March 17th. And we got an amazing, and I want to give credit to the Division of Forestry for how much work they did this year to get ready earlier than they've had in the past. So a lot of good work that went on, but they went on because we were concerned this year. And I'm going to continue to do a lot of work over the interim. I'm looking at critical routes, and you've got some roads like up to Crow Pass. That's one single route with a whole bunch of people living up in there. So we need to look at those routes to see, are those routes being protected? So if there was a fire, folks could get out if they had to. And do we have adequate water resources? Do we have adequate response resources? One of the things we were able to get assigned to the Anchorage Airport was an additional helicopter that would be available for response. So instead of having to wait for one to come around from Palmer. So we made a lot of progress this spring, and I'm going to spend a lot more time. And Chief, I would appreciate your help. I know this is an evolving, growing area of focus in Girdwood to understand that evolution and how we can look at the policies. For example, our state fire marshal's purview doesn't include wildfires. I think it should. Going to be working on that. So thank you for the question and the opportunity to go a little bit further beyond that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. I think, is that all the questions in the room and online?
Thank you for
really appreciate your time, your presence down here, and thank you for this summary sheet.
You bet. If anyone needs a newsletter, please.
Okay. All right. I think once again, we just double checking, we don't have Kathy Giesel online, correct? And so in that case, I'm going to move on to, do we have any of our assembly members, either Zach or Keith? We don't have online either, right? Okay. So moving on from that, our school board liaison, Carl Jacobs, not here.
We had a message there. He is. Thank you, Andy.
Oh, Andy.
Yes. We've reorganized this every year. So for the coming year, I'll be your liaison to the Anchorage School District Board. And it's great to be back in Girdwood again. Not too much to update this time of year. Summer school's come to an end. Graduations went well. It was a relatively smooth year. We are kind of pausing and looking at the fallout from the governor's veto. I appreciate what Representative Holland had to say, because the perception gets very confused for people. But what the governor announced in December was that he wanted to see funding for the BSA only. That did represent about a 20% cut from funding for this year. And that's what we based our budget on. And to some degree, a budget is a little bit of an abstraction when you're just looking at the numbers. Once we approved it and administration did the math on what it meant for allocation of teachers and resources. Principals got it, and we really started to see things kind of breaking down to the point that they were having difficulty making schedules. There's not a lot of resilience left in the staff, so to speak. And with that in mind, and how things shifted during the legislature to where it looked like it was going to be either $700 or $1,000 improvement on the BSA, we added in another $560 equivalent on the BSA to our budget, and that restored a lot of the cuts that people were expecting. But once again, if the full 700 that did finally get passed and overridden had been allowed to go into effect, that would have been right at flat funding for next year from what we're experiencing this year. It's a little bit more in absolute dollars, but when you put in a couple of percent for inflation, that would have been a little less buying power. But when it was reduced to where we're at, it does represent a cut next year from what we're providing this year. We're not exactly sure what some of those are going to look like. We think we will have middle school sports. We will continue to have hockey, swimming, and gymnastics at high school. Because it was pretty close to what we'd appropriated, we've got some time to kind of think about it. Unlike some of our friends in Fairbanks and Juneau that are really having to scramble right now to figure out what their budgets will be. But next year will look a little leaner than this year, but not as dramatically as we thought through most of the legislative session. Happy to take any questions.
Do we have any questions from the board? Okay, and then what about online or in the room? Questions? Okay, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate the report.
Yeah, look forward to seeing you once a month.
Thank you. Okay, I don't think Tim is here for the HLBAC report.
No, but there was a piece that he asked for us to share as we did in land use. So this is in the meeting packet, and it has to do with an amendment to the work plan for Heritage Land Bank. So for your information.
Thank you. That's all there is on that.
I have a comment on this, if I may.
Sure.
Yeah, this amendment that Zach Johnson put in definitely benefits a lot of our efforts from the comprehensive plan into the 5-year work plan and the efforts we put forth with our plans for trail development over in that land north of the airport and in that 6011 lease. One of the things that I do find kind of interesting about it, while this resolution was, or the amendment was written by Zach with our input, it never came back in front of us before it went in to be approved. So it's another example of actions being taken without running it through without our whatever. But it does show that he took the time to listen to what we had to say and get it down. Thank you.
Thanks for that. One other comment. I really did appreciate both Zach and Keith showing up at the last GHEC meeting, but I would note that this was not discussed at that meeting as well. And that, yeah, anyways. If that is all on that item, we're going to move forward to supervisor reports. And I'm going to start right to my right here with Brian. Do you have anything?
Nothing to add. We'll be seeing some stuff later on in the agenda tonight.
Okay, Ken.
I just had a question. Do you know the latest on the whatever bridge hand trim?
No updates aside from our, we've sent it out to the bid packet out to 3 contractors. Have we sent that 95% design out?
I'm not aware of it having gone out to bid.
Okay.
Oh, not a big deal. I was just curious.
I think Kyle might be in later,
Yeah.
so
Maybe in later.
if it works,
Uh-huh.
ask. Yeah.
Yeah. Or he may have added something to the packet that I haven't seen as well.
Right.
So,
Okay.
I'll just add really quick in the packet, we have recent information beside anything else. To add tonight.
Okay. And then did you have a supervisor report?
I don't, I was traveling, so I missed the second meeting when the contract was discussed, but
All right.
that'll be that'll be next month.
Brianna, Fire Department's report. Quickly, I'd like to highlight one new thing that the Anchorage Fire Department will host called Wildfire Wednesdays. And it starts, I believe, this Wednesday, so you can find it on YouTube, but wildfire@meeting.org has information. Also, I guess the only other thing I had was more related to the contract with police. So I don't have anything specific to add tonight.
Okay.
Thank you.
Then how about Mike? Do you have anything from GHEC you wanted to add?
Nothing specific. We'll cover it later.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. And that's similar from land use. So do we have any committee updates from our subcommittees for GBOS? And I see Brett, yes, from GHEC. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you for that. Brett Wilbanks, co-chair, Girdwood Housing and Economic Committee. So I want to get on the radar. I know that we've asked Kyle to start looking into the transfer of the parcel for the RV area development. And so I just wanted to make sure that that was on the radar and maybe forward agendas for GHEC as perhaps a standing report as we move forward. And I look forward to, just Kyle working through that process. I know it'll be long, but maybe we can keep that on the agenda. The other item I had was GHE did move the discussion about the Ruane parcel from HLB land over to LUC, the Land Use Committee, to talk about that and what it might look like in a development with Girdwood Community Land Trust. So that's been through one meeting and there will be another meeting coming up, just so people are informed. And then also at the last LUC meeting, I just wanted GBOS to be aware that GHEC was asked by the LUC to directly lobby to our assembly members on the STR issue for Girdwood. So that's been in discussion for quite some time, and I know that GBOS did take action on that. It's over 6 months ago. So I think that there's a community call for, a focus on that as we move forward. So I'll just leave it at that as we get to that in the agenda moving forward. So thanks for the time.
All right, thank you, Brett. Do we have anything else? Any other committees or any other? Okay.
Oh, I can add for Trails Committee. There will be no meeting in July for Trails Committee. And there are going to be some trail work sessions organized later on this month and next month.
And Margaret?
There's actually a trails work party tomorrow for anybody who wants to do it, meeting up at 6 o'clock off of Crow Creek Road, going up the Beaver Pond, I believe is the plan. So check your Girdwood Facebook page and you can find out more information. Always take gloves and it never hurts to have a rake.
Bridget's mama and Cubs active in that exact spot right now.
So pack a lunch.
Pack a lunch and feed your friends, bring food for your friends.
Yeah.
Forest friends.
Okay, standing reports. If it's moving on, proposed Girdwood developments. I don't know that we have, yes, but.
Has been updated.
I'm sorry?
If the proposed developments page has been updated. And perhaps Mike wants to address those.
Yeah, basically there are a number of projects moving on. I think the the biggest change since last update, which was 2 months ago, is we've got clarity that the municipality is insisting that land use permits are applied for activity that would normally require a land use permit at the airport. So that affects the Parcel H development and potentially any future development of a hotel there. That's a commitment that we've never had before, and we do have now. And the other changes are basically things moving through the process. If there are any specific questions, happy to answer them.
And I'd also like to know that we do have just a letter that came in regarding Parcel H shortly before. Parcel H we have kind of listed out separately, but since that came up as part of this conversation, that we did get a copy of a letter sent that there's a request that has been made to extend the amount of area covered by that by 13,541 additional square feet for a total leased area of 39,023 square feet, which would provide helicopter dolly access to the taxiway. And I suspect we'll be hearing more about that during public comment. Deborah, did you have a question or an additional piece of information about that?
Thank you, Jennifer. Mike, could you please repeat what you just has said in the very beginning about the change? And I didn't quite get that whole, what you,
Sure.
the announcement you made. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. The one big change, categorical change since we last updated this 2 months ago, is that the municipality has confirmed they do require and will insist on requiring a land use permit for development activity at the airport. They have not previously done so. They are doing it from this point onwards. So that affects Parcel H and would affect the proposed hotel development if it happens.
Okay, so recapping, that means that it must go through, be approved through the land use committee to approve, like you said, two examples, Parcel H and the proposed hotel?
Not quite. It's not necessarily the land use committee here in Girdwood, but it has to go through the formal process through the municipality, which might involve, depending what they're asking for. If they're asking for some of the more complex things, it may involve public meetings. If they're asking for very simple things, it doesn't, but it means that they have to then follow the requirements of the land use permit process, which most of the time people have not before. There are a few exceptions, but they're very narrow exceptions.
So this is good news, yeah? Are you happy with this,
Yeah,
Mike?
it's good news. It's not necessarily sufficient, but it's good news.
Okay, well, thanks for letting us know that.
Just a question, Mike, is it that MOA is asking for it and DOT has agreed? Or the lawyers at the MOA and DOT are discussing until it's clear which process will be used?
The MOA's position is that land use permits are required, and it's not the DOT who applies for it, it's the permittee, so it would be the leaseholder typically. DOT won't be applying for anything, I don't think, because unless they're doing certain types of construction themselves. DOT have a different opinion on whether it's needed, but that's kind of irrelevant, I think, to the particular requirements of whether the MOA needs it or not. But machinations are in process.
Thank you, Mike. So we've jumped a little bit ahead here to Parcel H. I want to just circle back to under proposed Girdwood developments and note that we do have Connie in the room. I would like to invite you to speak if you'd like to. That would be lovely.
I'm Connie O'Shimmer. I'm a developer for Holton Hills. I do want to let you know that today the Heritage Land Bank did sign a contract with GMC construction company for the improvement of the offsites, which includes the road, the gas and the electric and the sewer extension to the Holton Hills property. That is going to require some signage at the entrance to the high tower area. It will be an active construction site, and There will be a no trespassing sign because it is under construction. At the point in time that the property is under, the road is under construction, at the entrance to Walton Hills, there will be a sign that says private property and no trespassing. I know that many of you have used that as trail and walking areas, and unfortunately, this is what insurance requirements are required. Construction will begin on July 7th after the Forest Fair. It's a 75-day contract, and GMC is a reputable contractor. And that contract has been approved by the municipality of Anchorage. So I wanted to bring all that to your attention. There will be a fence installed at the end of the public offsites and the entrance to Walton Hills. It will have a gate so that municipal officials and AWW will be able to have access to it. We have no current plans yet for taking reservations, although we've had a lot of interest. We want to be able to complete this first phase of offsite construction before making any of those commitments. Yes.
What's the value of the contract?
$2 million. It was the low bid. The bids range from 2 million to 3.4 million.
Question, please. First of all, thanks for coming this evening again and keeping us updated on what's going on. And is this work consistent with the timeline laid out in the letter of agreement for this project?
The development agreement is there. Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions? If that's all right, if you don't mind, Connie? Yes. Hi.
Great, thank you for the update. I'm just curious, I know last summer we saw some construction projects going on here that ended up bringing a tremendous amount of gravel down Pittsburgh Highway up into the area to provide gravel. Is that likely to be happening again and impacting the area, or is there a different supply for the gravel you're going to need for the road work and some construction?
I do believe GMC is still working on that. There's been no final determination. It is a fixed bid contract, and so it is their responsibility to provide it, and they are currently shopping.
Okay, just something to watch out for, because I know it was a concern last summer. Thanks.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I have one. So just to clarify on the trail side, that's the is that going to result in the closing of both the Athabascan Trail and the Middle Iditarod Trail for the summer? 75 days.
Unfortunately, we've not completed those discussions, but it would be my understanding that this is an active construction site, and those trails may have some impact. We will have to confirm all of that activity.
Is there a map available of the area that'll be fenced? Or will there be a map?
I didn't quite understand.
Sorry, will there be a map available of the fencing area? Of the area to be fenced?
Yes, certainly. We will be happy to provide that.
Thank you.
And we will have adequate posting. I want to let you know also that we do have a web page, and it will be reactivated probably by the end of this week. And also we have Facebook, so we will be able to keep you informed. We do have a community liaison, George Passantino, who has worked with us in the past. He most likely will be in contact with several of you going forward to hear your concerns and opinions and suggestions.
Thank you. Yes, Brianna.
Thanks. Thank you, Brian, for being here tonight and giving us the update. Just a follow-up for the last question, and map of where the fencing would be really helpful when that is available for also the school, because the kids use the Athabascan Trail and the Iditarod Trail for cross country, and they can hopefully work around that to go the other direction. And then for just key classes and things like that.
We'll get back to you as soon as we can. We'll be talking to the surveyor and the engineer and the general contractor, and then we'll be happy to give you a graphic of how that will work.
Thank you. You're welcome.
That would be helpful. I know that the Fungus Fair also uses the trails in that area. Usually this time it's going to be the weekend after Labor Day. And so it'll just be helpful to minimize conflicts.
We do support trails and we do support trees. So it is our intent to be as less invasive as possible for a construction project. Thank you.
Yes, Brian.
Yeah. So you support trails and you support trees, and I'm glad to hear that. And hopefully we can work on access to the Iditarod Trail from the Hightower bike trail on over. There are people in the community that would be ready to work with you to identify corridors that we can use to keep that vital part of our trail system open. You indicated that there's going to be a 75-day schedule on so you're starting mid-July.
July 7th.
July 7th. So that puts us kind of mid to end of August for tying that up. So back about when school's going to be starting back up again.
We had that discussion today in our meeting that they needed to be certainly aware and have absolute good traffic control under the circumstances. We were, quite frankly, a little disappointed that they were not going to begin earlier, but it was their choice to begin after the Forest Fair. Thank you.
Sorry, if you don't mind, we do have more questions. Crystal.
Hi, thank you, Connie, for being here tonight. I am wondering if there is any new update in regards to the one lot of multifamily and one lot of single family home available for community purposes.
That is a discussion that you'll have to have directly with Heritage Land Bank. There are two multifamily tracts that will be available. But whether or not they are available and under what circumstances is not my responsibility. It is with Heritage Land Bank. And I believe I've had that conversation with a gentleman by the name of John Renz, who also asked that question. And Crystal, I suggested that you work directly with Heritage Land Bank if you have an interest in those two tracts.
Mike.
Yeah, just quickly, I think the 75 days takes it through to last week of September. So potentially it's a trail closure through nearly the end of December, end of the end of September.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any other questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for coming down. Okay, GBSA non-property tax funds. Do we have any update on that? That might be Mike. We have bed tax allocation on 9, so I think we have that is incorporated in that discussion. But if I'm not correct about that. And then do we have anything that we want to say at this point about the GBOS rules and procedures revisions? Because right now that's a work in progress and we don't have a draft out yet.
No, I think we can just report we had a work session meeting. We're collecting comments on the partial draft that was presented there, and we expect to have a full draft by the time for our second meeting in August.
And the other thing that might be worth mentioning is that we agreed during that meeting to try to focus on simply bringing the rules and procedures in line with what is already happening and also with Muni code. So we're not at this point so far making more major or revisions that are not consistent with actual practice. But that is, we still welcome comments for that. And that will be another step. So did anyone have anything else they wanted to add about that? Did you want to add
No,
something?
just
Brianna?
thank you for that work session and that those comments that would be appreciated by June 22nd or 21st or 20th
Okay.
from the board. Through Margaret.
Okay, STR registration and regulation, that is, I'm going, did you have something you wanted to add about that? Okay. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, just so to clarify, I think you may have skipped past parcel H in the agenda.
Oh, right. Sorry.
Sorry.
I thought that we had already covered it, but you know what? I am happy to return to that. Did we have more to say about parcel H? Because the update has been made, and then as far as community comments, that should be under public comment, unless we have any like specific questions or specific information update. I know we have some community members here who would like to speak to it, but I believe that belongs under public comment. But yes, Camilla.
Regarding the the amendment in the lease that you read partially aloud. The second paragraph is perhaps more germane.
Okay.
Because there is an additional comment period. If you look at the second paragraph, it says competing applications or written comments must be received. So they made an amendment to the lease, which is substantial. And this language says they're accepting competing applications. But more important to the average person who is interested in this project is they're also accepting public comment again. And perhaps it will be only about the amendment, but nonetheless, we can make our voices heard again. And the thing about these public comments is that they must be mailed, a mailed piece of paper with a stamp. They don't accept the public comments online. And then replies will go to those people who actually sent in. And this is important. It's important to the process because we are fighting to rescind the lease, and we have another in now to make our opinions known. Thanks.
Thank you for pointing that out. Yes.
Can I ask a follow-up?
Sure.
I think, well, hopefully I can ask this here, but I'm just curious, if you're not able to rescind the lease, are you in favor of the expansion? Because as far as I read it, the entire point is to prevent the helicopters from taking off in proximity to the homes. And so the way I interpret this is it's so that they can get further away for takeoffs and landings and be less of a obstruction to your quality of life. So I'm just curious if, and maybe it's a larger conversation, but generally speaking, if the lease isn't rescinded, is this an improvement or do you see it as a detriment?
I don't think it's an improvement. It's larger.
I think it would move helicopters 60 feet further.
Okay.
And a turbine helicopter 60 feet or 75 feet is still too loud.
Okay. And Representative Holland, did you have anything else you wanted to say or cover?
I was just curious. It's one of the major things I was trying to learn where we're at. And I know we touched a little bit on H during the project.
No, thank you.
I understood that we were coming back to it as a specific.
I appreciate
Make sure we have a complete update on this important project.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
And if we're talking, I know that the MOA has said they will require a land use permit. As far as I understood the last situation, the DOT lawyers and the MOA lawyers were talking to determine if MOA is allowed to tell DOT what to do. So that MOA has decided it's needed. From my understanding, doesn't mean that it's happening.
Correct.
It just means that lawyers are talking about it. And so with regard to your curiosity, it's my belief that that's what that comment means. Less that it's a done deal, that process will be followed.
Yes.
Thanks for taking, I do have some more parcel H things that are going to fall right in on this as well. This is Steve Halverson commenting.
Steve, would you mind going closer?
Yeah,
to
sure.
We can move the microphone a little closer to you too if you want to sit, but whatever you're comfortable with.
Steve, can I just check real quickly? Is this
This is a lot about what
answering those? Okay, thank you. Thank you.
yeah, because I was emailing with the municipal manager, and it was in one of her email replies that she talked about land use, they were going to require land use permits. But she also said in there that it was, like you said, that was the city's position.
Yeah.
And she also said the land use permit, they see this construction as an as of right use. So they're not going to say what's going in here is wrong. She said they will look at setbacks and building color. So that's not really, that's why we said that's not all that helpful. We would like to ask, first of all, it's a great letter that GBOS sent previously. We would like to ask for another letter, just for a brief update, I think is fair to the city. Because I'm getting emails, and I had Mike CC'd on that email. But also, could we get another letter encouraging them to follow the airport master, or to require DOT to follow the airport master plan, which would just place the development to the north. There are lots up there. And we think through the Girdwood comprehensive plan, that paragraph in chapter 5, I think it was, I can give you the exact one. It gives the city the ability to ask for that. Some of the other things, just a couple of hurdles. Oh, go ahead.
Just curious, when you say there's lots to the north, what are you referring to?
I'm referring to the current airport layout plan.
Yeah, I guess just from my understanding, all the lots to the north are in the lease from the hotel. So there's no more land.
Right, but there's 4 beyond that. There's 4 lots that are beyond that.
Okay, yeah, got it.
So there are lots, there are already lots. Actually, on the current airport layout plan, there is no parcel H.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's another issue.
It's also 20 years.
And just to share also some of the hurdles we come up against, like just today, in communicating with a lawyer, we haven't engaged a lawyer, but we've been encouraged to, and we're looking at it. And somebody was talking to us, and he couldn't find the current airport master plan on the state of Alaska's page. And so I know where it is because I've been using it for 3 months, and I went and looked, and the link doesn't work anymore. And so I Google it, and what I get is a $700,000 request for a new amended airport master plan for Girdwood. So there's all kinds of things going on that just seem to happen in the shadows. So I don't know. So we keep plugging on. We're still confident. We're hanging in there. But, everybody in the community supports us. And I say actually everybody. I mean, we haven't heard from anybody who doesn't support it. So we're thankful for that. When we talk to the city and the DOT and the FAA and all these people, for the most part, we get encouragement, as we have all along. Not from the DOT, of course, they're just kind of quiet. But
let me see if I have a statement or a question from Mike here. Mike, please go ahead.
Thanks. Yeah, I just want to clarify a couple of comments that were made earlier about the municipality's position. So my understanding is the municipality's position is that there is a requirement. Their legal advice is the legal advice they've received, and therefore the policy they are following is that there is a requirement for a land use permit. That means there is a process. What's actually being proposed has never been written down in any detail. So requiring a land use permit means there has to be complete plans and a level of detail to know what the proposal actually is. Everything so far has been somewhat hand-wavy. So that's at least a requirement that we see what the proposal is. And at that point, we can engage further in it. I agree with several of Steve's comments about, I don't think it's an appropriate use at all. There should be use to the north. It's interesting that DOT have issued a lease for a hotel development, which is not a legal development under the land use code that applies at the airport. So there is some complexity around this current situation. And I actually think it's a fine idea for us to maybe send another comment letter in before to address the lease extension. So that would be before the 11th, I think it was, of July, addressing that this is not consistent with our comprehensive plan, and not something we generally support, and we would encourage the lease to be rescinded and something to the north of the airport to be considered instead.
I guess that's what we were asking for, so that would be fantastic.
Let me just clarify one more time. You're asking, and I wrote it down, you're specifically requesting a letter to that DOT follow the airport master plan, but it sounds like the best bet there is for that letter to come from the city.
That's what we were hoping, is that we were encouraging the city to engage with that. We think that's the best bet. And we're getting, thanks to you guys inviting us to that combined meeting, you know, and with Rebecca in person, we're getting emails back. It's just, obviously, we would like it to be priority number one and just lower on the priority. But that's what we're asking for, I think, is for the city to bring that up with the DOT. What is their airport master plan? Where are they following?
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anything else on this? Okay. All right, service provider reports. Chief West.
Hi there. For May, we had 37 incidents, so pretty typical for us. And so far June, which was our highest month last year, we've only had 6 calls so far. But I think that's probably related to weather. Now that it's nice outside, probably we'll see more. Our summer staffing model of 4 plus paid on call is working really well. Our wildfire mitigation days that we had last week, I believe it was, worked out really well. Thank you to Division of Forestry for bringing people down, Chugach Electric for sponsoring it. And and the chips, of course, all go to Forest Fair. And so that worked really well. And thank you to Alaska Wildlife Conservation Center for also taking the live browse. It's possible that we are going to get some additional funding. Division of Forestry called me a couple of days ago and said they might have some funding for us to do some more mitigation work. And I'm looking forward to hearing if that comes through or not. We did receive a mayor's grant to help us buy, at least for half the department, some Gore-Tex jackets for winter backcountry rescue and also for our CERT team. And we have been really busy. We have 3 engineers that are training right now. You'll see the water tenders doing a lot of laps around Girdwood. They're doing a lot of driver training. We had held a red card class in Girdwood, so we have 14. We now currently have 14 firefighters that are forestry red card certed. And we have 4 more that need to be refreshed. So we're going to have half the department holding red cards, which is the highest amount we've ever had, ever. So that was wonderful. So 50% of the department will be red card certified. We held an evacuation workshop Friday and Saturday that brought evacuation leaders in fire and law enforcement in to talk about evacuation. And that was really valuable. And I'm going to put some of those lessons learned into practice. And they did 2 evacuation exercises. One was a active shooter at the Day Lodge, and then the other was a wildfire at First Pond, which spread over and required an evacuation of the Girdwood community and Crow Creek. So that was interesting. Our Sim Man, which we got, which is a simulated EMS mannequin, which we got under a grant, is being programmed tomorrow. So excited about that. And we'll roll him out so you can see him as soon as he becomes alive with the IT consultant. We've got 4 senior firefighters starting paramedic school in fall. That's paid for by a FEMA grant. And just a reminder, if you'd like to join the CERT team, they're having a meeting on Thursday at 7 o'clock. And Steve Bartholomew, also known as Bart, is going to be the coordinator. So you can talk to me or Bart, and we will set you up for joining and learning emergency management skills. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief West. Does anyone have any questions for the Chief? No. All right. Thank you very much. Sounds like a lot going on. Police, Chief Hache. He's not online anymore, is he? He was. Did he go? Now I don't see him. All right. And then I have a question. Margaret, if you want, do we want to delay Parks and Rec? Do you want to cover that? Do we want to see if Kyle shows up or just skim over it? Or sorry.
Well, I think we had talked about how to abbreviate meetings, so I was just going to say that the report is in the packet. And in skimming through it just now, I didn't see an update from Kyle having to do with the bridge. The last I recall, we were waiting to determine whether we were going to put it out for bid in the summer or in the fall, and looking for a bit more information in order to make that decision. So I'm sure Kyle could tell us more, but I don't think that it is out on the street yet. So that's, could be wrong. Anyway, we have some pretty pictures in order to get your attention. We've been busy and it's in the packet.
And it's a great report. It's fantastic reading. So thank you for doing that. And I do appreciate the brevity too. That's fantastic. Yes, Mike.
Just a quick question for Margaret or Kyle, maybe when he comes later. When there are trail closures for 2.5 months, like the one we're likely to see in a couple of weeks' time, what's the communication plan? Is this locally communicated? Is this sort of Facebook messages and various other things? I don't remember the last time we had this for extended period. Well, I guess Beaver Pond was shut, wasn't it, because of access?
Beaver Pond was shut this winter, having to do with the slides and just the unstable activity over there. And that was handled just with signage at the trail junctions. I am not familiar with the trail closure of this kind of duration. Typically, we have had trail work that has, encouraged people to just be aware of trail work in progress, but this is a different beast. So I think we'll need to figure it out.
Did hear Ms. Shamara mention signage. Did you have anything else you wanted to add on that? Because I believe I heard you say that there would be signage along Hightower for that.
Yes, so we would like to have a liaison and from our construction and also from you. And we'll work through this issue. We have about 2 weeks in order to do that, to give us adequate signage and all that sort of thing. So we will definitely be in touch. And who would you like us to communicate with?
I think it will be Kyle.
Okay. Thank you.
For our office, I guess, generally.
Yes.
All right. All right. Moving on, public comment. Persons offering public comment must state their full name and address. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per person and must be on subjects listed on the agenda. However, I do want to allow people to have personal opinions about Project H, because I kind of shut that part off. And so if you have opinions that you would like to express for that, it is not an action item on the agenda, so that is okay. Yes, Crystal.
Hi, Crystal Hoke. I just wanted to give a brief update regarding Girdwood Inc. and Little Bears Playhouse joint project. Currently, we have the foundation ready to be poured, and they were working on rebar today. So we're expecting the foundation as soon as Friday. So things are working well. Is Kai Holland still in the room?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to voice my support for the budget that passed with, I believe there's about almost 6 million for childcare specific items. We're needing to fund the gap due to lack of federal funding that didn't come through in 25. So we have a $630,000 gap to find. And any portion of that 6 million available for childcare funds would be greatly appreciated. And I just wanted to plug that there is a need. Thank you.
Okay. Do we have any other public comment? Anybody in the room? Yes. Brian.
So Brian Burnett, PO Box 838 there in Girdwood. I am concerned about the announcement at this meeting for a wholesale closure of a significant segment of Girdwood Trail to the community. 75 days of closure to a trail segment accessing the upper valley seems very excessive to me. And I think that we need to have a plan put to this body on how the developer and the construction company plans to manage the bike path crossing for children and families accessing the Girdwood playground during the summertime, as trucks will be turning off of Hightower and crossing the bike trail. I find that concerning. I find it concerning that the section of Iditarod Trail is going to be closed off, although there will be no open ditch along, no open excavation going on along that portion of the project. So I'm looking forward to a plan that the developer can work with our community liaison to allow us access to a significant portion of our trail, and how we are going to manage traffic to the Girdwood playground over the course of the summer. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Deborah Corrigan. You have 3
Hi.
minutes.
Okay, thank you. Brian, I have to echo everything that you just said. I actually am a frequent trail user of that specific area. So I'm actually been using it more frequently now, just knowing that it's going to be obstructed. Though I think that the concerns that you brought up are very, very real and somewhat disturbing. So I echo those comments that you made, and thank you for that. Regarding parcel H, just because Jennifer, you brought that back up, that I just would like to clarify with maybe Mike about how that he said he agreed that another letter would go out and from the GBOS during this comment period again. That would happen Mike, how are you going to do that or organize that before the 11th of July, before the GBOS meets again?
Thank you for your comment, Deborah. I will double check with Mike, but it's not my understanding that that was what he was saying. That would take a special action item. And also I should clarify, but I understood that the most effective letter is going to come from the city, not from GBOS. So it's the city at this point, based on their declaration that things, or sorry, not declaration, based on their decision that the land use permits have to be applied for, then that becomes something that's between the city and DOT. That's my understanding. Check with the rest of them board here. And with Mike.
Okay.
Sorry, Deborah, let me just check real quick.
Thank you.
Make sure I got that answer correct.
Thank you.
Mike, do you want to?
Hi. Yeah, I'll just quickly comment. I was actually thinking about introducing an item this evening about writing a letter from us. So I'm not sure if I'm going to. I'm just thinking through it.
Okay, thank you. All right, Deborah, did you have anything else to add there?
Well, not trying to be pushy. I'm just wondering, like, what is the procedure and when's that going to happen? If you're thinking about it, Mike, I mean, just from past many GBOS and other types of meetings, like procedural wise, how does that happen? And the reality is that the written comment needs to be submitted before the 11th of July. So
Deborah, I think I can address that. This is Jennifer again. We're having discussions up here actually about whether or not to introduce that as an action item. That would have to be a change to the agenda, but that is being discussed here. We don't have that answer quite yet, but right now we're still in public comment. So do you have anything else you want to fit? Because you're at your 3 minutes here. So can I, if you don't mind, I understand the request for this, and I understand why we have a request because of the deadline that's unexpected and was 10 minutes before the meeting. But it won't be we're not going to discuss it under public comment. So I'm going to just double check if we have any more public comment tonight on right now this, and then continue on. Are we good, Deborah? Okay. All right. Moving on to old business. I'm going to continue down the old business, and then if a new item that needs to be introduced, we will do so after item number 9 under old business. Are we agreed on the board? Okay. So Lions Club Park Pavilion, we have a request for capital funding to cover project payments for reimbursement from the 2024 Land and Water Conservation Fund grant. And is that you?
Yes. So I hope everybody remembers that at the May meeting, we put together a resolution of support for the site plan and to get the planning and zoning department to approve the site plan for the Lions Club pavilion to be put in place. That resolution went out, and now what's coming ahead of us is an ask to authorize spending not to exceed $169,974 on this project, and the project will be paid for by the land conservation grant that was issued for specifically for this project. There is also money funds that the Lions Club has raised, and the reason that we are going to have to ask Girdwood to pay for it on the front end is this is how the grant is reimbursed. We have to pay it first. Did I get that right, Margaret?
I think you have hit the high points, and I know that you had a conversation with Kyle that I was in the other room for. So what I've understood is that we're looking for about 150,000 authorized by GBOS, but there is a reimbursement. It's a one-to-one grant, matching grant, and $25,000 has been raised by the Lions Club toward this effort, which is significant for such a small organization in our community. So anyway, I believe that Kyle had just gotten a more solid estimate than the one that's in the packet. Anyway, I think that the number that you quoted, Brian, would certainly be a good not to exceed amount, but I think that the actual request may be even lower than that. But if we ask for the higher number, we will certainly not use that we don't need. So I'm not sure if it's possible to repeat the requested amount, since I don't have that. It was 169, and then I
169,974, which is what is in the packet here. And I also would like to point out that amount includes a 30% contingency line on the estimate of $39,000. So I mean, a pretty significant.
Yeah, so I think that there was a newer estimate that just came in today or on Friday. So anyway, this information was to us in time for the meeting packet. I'm feeling confident that if you authorize this amount, we will be in fine shape. And again, there is a matching component to this.
And if I can make additional comment, the Lions Club Park parcel figures prominently in the ongoing Girdwood Parks master planning process. It's one of 5 specific parks in Girdwood that is going to be highlighted in the parks planning process. And I think that the addition of this gazebo and developed area and covered area is going to be a important and significant addition to our community. I think that as we go through the parks planning process, one of the themes that is going to come out is the desire to see more covered public space in Girdwood.
All right, could you repeat the amount?
So it's in the packet here.
It's on the screen.
Okay, and on the screen.
You need a motion?
Yes.
Yes, you need a motion.
I'll make a motion. Is that the right motion?
Can you say it so people online can hear?
Yes.
Yeah, I motion to approve the requested amount.
So I think that's great. I think we could also say that it's coming from the, well, yeah, not to exceed 169,974 from the Parks and Rec account.
Okay, I make a motion to approve an amount not to exceed 169,974 from the Parks and Recs account for the purposes of this Lions Club Pavilion as explained by Brian.
I agree.
Okay, and looks like we have a comment from Mike or a question.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a question. So this amount, the 169,974, not to exceed, is an estimate of the total project cost, and we're expecting 25,000 of that to be contributed by the Lions Club, and then some amount coming from a grant. Now, I wasn't clear on the amount of that grant. So I wondered if someone could clarify the amount of the grant and whether this, whether 25,000 of this would be covered by Lions Club.
So Mike, in the meeting packet, there is information about the other grants, and the Land and Water Conservation Fund is the first one on there. This has been around for a long time, so it's understandable that all of us have kind of forgotten about it. It was kind of delayed in the last year. But it's a one-to-one grant, and the request, and all of this was based on really I guess, early data because we didn't have a specific plan, and now we have the more specific documents rolling in. But anyway, it was at about $100,000 for a project costing a bit over $200,000.
Okay, thank you. I couldn't find that in the
It's on page
in the
2
packet.
of our little report.
Sorry, on which page? Oh, of the parks report.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I didn't see a separate thing. Yeah. So just to clarify, then, so we're committing 169,000, approximately 170,000. We expect 100,000 of that to be a one-to-one match, and another 25,000 to come from Lions Club. So the actual net expenditure would be up to 170 minus 125. So what's that? That's 45,000. But that includes a big chunk of that's contingency, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, I understand, I think.
Right. Well, so what I understood from the conversation that that Kyle was having with Brian earlier was that he was hoping for a request from GBOS for about 150,000. So I think that there is a more updated estimate that we didn't have in time for the packet. So I think if we stick with the 169, we will definitely hit our mark.
So we have a motion, it's been seconded. Do we have any other discussion about it? Or questions? Deborah, you have a comment about the pavilion?
I'm wondering then if the one-to-one match doesn't come to that whatever number, that 169 or minus the 25 that's already been raised, then is the capital fund going to automatically pay that or be responsible for that money?
Parks and Rec contingency fund would be my guess.
Well, right, but
Was there this?
I guess I don't understand the question because we have, it's a not to exceed amount,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Okay, so
So-
there's,
Reimbursement. So, although our project costs may turn out to be more or less than what we're estimating right now, we'll be reimbursed 1-to-1 for whatever project cost does end up being. And the cost would also match the amount that the Lions Club has collected as well. So I don't know that I can explain it more clearly since I have not seen the estimate that Kyle was looking at. What I noticed is not in this estimate is labor.
Okay, thank you.
And I mean, it could be that Kyle's here in 6 minutes. The Giants are done.
Okay, all right, good to know.
So we may have more clarity on it, but again, I think the request that's on the table right now is sufficient and
Yes.
should handle it.
Okay, so if and when Kyle arrives, we will allow time for further questions, if there are further questions about this, but I think I'd like to have a vote on this amount and this request now. So if everyone's approved of that, okay. And let's do a roll call vote on this.
Okay, sounds
So
good.
can I point of information?
Yes.
So I'm still, I heard some answers which still confuse me as to whether, so my question, I'm going to rephrase my question. After the grant has been applied for and we get the reimbursement from the grant and we get the contributions from the Lions Club, if the project does cost 169,974, how much of that will be paid for by Girdwood taxpayers? Is it 45,000? Is it 167,900? Is it somewhere in between? I haven't got clarity on that yet. I'm still not getting a clear, I'm not understanding the answers I'm getting. And this might require Kyle to be here.
Okay, too. In that case, I would propose that we move on to item number 9 and then delay for now if the board is willing to, okay. You comfortable with that, Mike? Can we table
Yeah,
that
I'm
question?
comfortable with that. Yes, thank you.
Okay, absolutely. Right. Item number 9, bed tax allocation for Girdwood to mitigate negative impacts of STR. Mike, you are listed as the sponsor on this.
Yeah, so just want to give a quick update on this. I don't have a document that I could share with Margaret for the meeting, but I will have something that will go into the minutes. So there are 4 components to this. The first one is we do not know precisely how much bed tax is collected in Girdwood. There is a requirement in code that when one company or one business, one commercial business is the majority of the collection, then that number is not publicly available. So we will not find out how much the hotel, or we will not find out from the MOA how much the hotel contributes to bed tax. I think they're in the top 5, I believe, of all hotels in the Muni, or top 6. That number we will not get. However, we should be able to get, in theory, the amount of money contributed by short-term rentals. However, that number is not available to the Muni at all. They do not have information about where the short-term rentals are that are collecting tax payments through their platforms. There was an attempt to get that information. The municipality passed an ordinance and changed code last fall. It turned out that that was challenged by the platforms, and the Muni decided not to fight that issue. So that is one of the things that is pushing another attempt at a registration scheme, municipal-wide. So we can get that data about how much money is coming from short-term rentals in different places within the municipality. So that's one thread. We don't exactly know how much there is. There are some commercial products which estimate how much money is raised for how much revenue different types of short-term rentals generate. If you run those numbers, then the estimate is approximately 1.6 million of short-term rentals, room tax came from short-term rentals in the past 12 months. So we may be talking about something like, just north of 1.5 million total room tax rental in Girdwood from short-term rentals only. Hotels would be in addition to that. So that's one thread, just the amount. The other thing is there are several proposals there are multiple discussions and proposals for how potentially to change this in the future. There is a proposal which I only heard about last week. A couple of three assembly members are working on an additional tax for short-term rentals only. So they would pay room tax and then they would pay an additional short-term rental tax. And the number that's being proposed for that is 5%. So if that's the case, if there is a additional tax, it would have to go to the voters on a ballot. And if the voters approve that tax, then that money could be directed in all sorts of ways. And obviously we would want at least the amount collected here to go towards amelioration of housing costs within Girdwood and availability of housing within Girdwood. That's one thread. Then there is also a question about what about the money that's raised now? What can happen to that room tax? About half of the room tax, although there is something in code that says 4% goes to the convention centres, 4% goes to general fund, and 4% goes to tourism promotion. Up until last year, it was approximately half, just over half actually, was going to the room tax, the convention centre funds. That is no longer the case. It is down to 4%. At the moment, the 4% that goes to tourism promotion all goes to Visit Anchorage. So Visit Anchorage had a fairly significant windfall last year and received a significantly more money than they had in previous years. And I think that may be why we saw an editorial recently saying, that they want all that money and want to keep it in the future. There is interest from multiple assembly members to readjust that and to make more money available, particularly for housing, either municipal wide, or I think from our position, we would want it geographically distributed because we have a very different problem to other parts of the municipality. There are two potential paths for that, and it all depends on whether the charter itself restricts how that money can be used or whether it's just code that restricts it. And the jury, well, it's not going to a jury, but the lawyers are fighting or discussing that amongst themselves at the moment. So basically, the two paths are either there would need to be, again, another thing going to voters, readjusting how room tax gets spent, or it could potentially be done just in code through an ordinance. So the moment there are basically three different things being discussed. One thing is we don't know how much money is being raised from short-term rentals. We know the total across the whole muni. We don't know it geographically. There needs to be a method to get that. So that's really one of the things behind registration. And then separately, there are three paths for how the money could be redirected. One is a charter change, which needs the voters to approve. For existing room tax. There's a path maybe where there wouldn't need to be a voter change, which could be faster. And then also there is a proposal we will see in a couple of months for adding a new short-term rental tax in addition to the existing thing. So that's currently where things stand. A lot of stuff is moving around. I think what we can do or could do is we've already got a resolution from about 18 months ago that stated our general positions and our goals for any short-term rental regulations. I think we can be more specific and just make the case through resolution that there needs to be a funding stream because of the impact, the very significant impact of short-term rentals in Girdwood on our housing. There needs to be an income stream related to that that's used to, not for general housing across Anchorage, but used to address the challenges of housing and affordable housing in Girdwood. So we do not have a resolution yet, but we can bring that at our next meeting. A lot of information, happy to take questions.
Thank you for that recap, Mike. It is some familiar ground. Currently for tonight, I don't see an action item for tonight unless I am mistaken about this. So it sounds like the next step would be deciding about a potential draft and whether or not we want to move forward with that. And it seems to fit in with past resolutions and past decisions that we've already made about really wanting to find out, not only wanting to find out about what we're already paying, but insisting that we have to have some financial returns on not only what we're giving out, but on the tremendous impacts of STRs in our community. All right, yes.
Question for Mike. I'm curious as to where does the resort stand on the bed tax allocations to Girdwood as they provide significant room tax to the municipality?
Thank you, Brian. I don't speak for the resort, so I've had informal discussions, but I haven't heard any formal position from them. I think that's a good question for us to ask.
Yeah. Thank you. Do we have any other questions? All right. I would like to circle back real quickly. I know we have some other things in the room. I'm sorry, but I need to quickly circle back to item number 6. Oh, I'm sorry, Brett. Yes.
Yeah, right. So I just wanted to point of information through GHEC and fact finding on the effort to register STRs. We did buy the data, and just sort of off the cuff napkin numbers, about 2.5 million per year goes in on the STR effort back to municipal coffers, and about it's not 1.5 million as suggested earlier. But that's about what the hotel puts in as an additional million from what we can guess. So just those are anecdotal numbers, but the bulk of the number, which represents 18 to 20% of the revenues to the municipality on STR bed taxes, come from Girdwood. So FYI, just throwing that out there. Maybe there's some more accurate numbers, but just generally more money comes from short-term rentals than the hotel itself.
Yes, Mike.
Yeah, I'm just asking Brett if you could share that calculation, because I've used the same data and more recent data from the same source and come up with a different number. But so if you could share the calculation, and we'll find out which is right, or whether it's yet a different number. But I think this does underline a particular problem. If we don't have something that's auditable, we just have estimates. So the registration would at least give us a justification for then getting the information from the platforms about a geographic split, which is the problem we have right now.
Okay, thank you. And it also indicates that either way, we're talking about substantial numbers. Yeah. So thank you both for that. All right. I would like to move back to item number 6. We have Coach Kyle is back. Coach Kelly is back with us here.
Can we get a score update?
Oh, yeah. How'd the game go?
Girdwood won 8-1.
Oh, woo!
Finished out the season on a winning record, so it's great.
Fantastic. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations to all of you.
Supervisor.
Okay, we have a standing question.
Can I just ask a point of information?
Yes.
Are we now finished on the previous item of
yes.
short-term rental tax? Thank you. I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Yes. Yes. Yes, my understanding, we have any other questions or comments about it. So yes, we moved on. So we are returning to item number 6. And Kyle, sorry to put you right immediately on the spot, but there was a question about exactly how much the Girdwood Valley Service Area ends up spending. Let's say, for example, if this amount is spent. So understanding that this is the 169,974 understanding that's an estimate, but say that that amount is spent, what is the total amount that is GVSA has covered out of that?
So if I did nothing else, I didn't do any in-kind or anything, it would be 50%. So we would get reimbursed for 50% from the Land Water Conservation Grant. But between the time I put in, Margaret puts in, the time that the Lions Club put in for fundraising money, and then also getting reimbursed for previous expenses, we should be able to get that number down. I think in the end, so what I'm asking for tonight is 150,000, because the Lions Club has raised 25,000. So that gets us to the number that gives us a bit of contingency to deal with the build and the purchasing of the material. And so at that point, if I had no other in-kinds, it'd be 75,000 that the service area would pay for capital out of the capital account. But I think with the time that I have put in, which is a substantial amount of time into this project, the time the Lions Club has put in with fundraising for the project, because they do take that also, they recognize that is in-kind volunteer time. And then the time it will probably for me to project manage this as it's being built, I think I can get it down. It probably, but my goal is that all we're spending is 25% of the project from the capital fund, which should be somewhere around $35,000 to $40,000 in that aspect. And if I can get it lower, I will. The thing I don't know is what the state's going to be. I haven't worked with this grant before, so when I start submitting match time, for the most part, they're pretty flexible with it, but this is a new grant, so they could be more rigid. And there's some requirements coming out of DC that make it a little more interesting. So at the worst case scenario, just straight up cash, we would be 75 in. I think we can get it down that we're only about 40,000 in on this project. So yeah, I think that's where we're at. So far, we are about $13,000 into the project with the design, permitting, and bid package. And we've just finished the whole bidding process. So now we're basically, the next step is construction.
Very good. Okay, nice thorough answer. All right, I'm gonna just, do we have any questions? Like Mike, I want to just call on you directly and say, do you have any follow-up you'd like to ask?
No, thank you. That answered my question completely. Thank you, Kyle.
Okay, and do you have any other questions for the board?
All right, question here, Kyle. When we spoke on the phone today, we also spoke in terms of the pavilion can be a source of revenue in years going forward, recognizing being able to lease it to like back roads, bicycling. And currently we bring in a couple $1,000s a year.
Just off them.
Off them.
So yeah, we find that a lot of times people don't want to rent the Marlowe, but we don't rent out the Nisman. It's supposed to be a first come, first served pavilion, but that size a lot of people are looking for. So we think that will lead to more reservations over here because it's more quaint, smaller, and the playground's right there. So, but Backroads, for example, is there 3 days a week having lunches, and they were in the park until this year. And with the rain last year, they moved over to a pavilion, but they're excited to have a pavilion back over here. And then, in the Lions Club and other functions, they'll be promoting it as well as a way to promote the park. So yeah, it has a revenue source to it.
Yes. I made a motion, do not to exceed that number. Should I amend the motion? Or are we happy if we keep it as do not exceed 160 and 170?
I think I'm happy with 150 do not exceed because I have that $25,000 match coming from the Lions Club. So I'm already at 175.
Yeah, so I'll amend my motion to be do not exceed 100.
Seconder, I agree with the amendment.
Okay, do we have any further discussion about this? All right, in that case, I would like a roll call.
Sure. Brian Burnett.
Yes.
Brianna Sullivan.
Yes.
Kelly Ockenick.
Yes.
Mike Edgington.
Yes.
Jennifer Wingard.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Before we move on to new business, I would like to take this moment to take a brief check-in with the board on whether or not we want to address parcel H and the requests that we have from our community members. This specifically asking for a letter to the municipality, urging the municipality to say they will require DOT to abide by the current Girdwood area master plan, placing the development on the north side of the airport before they approve a land use permit. And then also checking with the Muni, which I believe we might be able to add that to our MOA GBOS, but meeting, or if we need it, but prior, checking on updates either from legal or the planning department. So do we have any interest from any board members in adding this as an agenda item for tonight?
If Mike doesn't, I do.
All right. Would you like to propose a motion?
Yeah, I would like us to consider adding an action item for the agenda this evening. And that is that we, the GBOS, write a letter specifically to the municipality of Anchorage, requesting that the municipality requests DOT to follow the Girdwood Comprehensive Plan. And yeah.
Okay, so let me start first with a motion to add this to the agenda.
Yep.
So
okay.
Start with that. And so that would need a second.
I'll second.
Okay. And then now that we have this on the agenda, yes.
Follow up with the seconds for discussion. If it's open, this is item under old business to take action.
Yes.
Okay. I'm agreeable, very agreeable to that, so that we can also save time for everyone that's already here. Discuss it. We already kind of discussed it earlier, so that's a great jump start. And either way, then we don't have to have another. So thank you for bringing it up.
Yeah. Okay. So just for the record, this is something for everyone online. This is something that we try not to do, adding into old business and adding action items. This letter that we are responding to, we all received just minutes before the meeting, and it includes a date of July 11th as a deadline. And so we cannot put it off until our other meeting, and we don't have time for the new business, old business usual cycle. So that is why we were taking this step. All right. Discussion.
Who would like to work on the letter?
Was that a question?
Yes, question. Who would like to work on the letter?
I'm happy to work with the airport folks on this. And Mike, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I was going to speak to the letter and what we should do. I think there's two parts to this. I think we as a body can respond directly to the public notice, and I think we should. I think we can make our statements directly to DOT as a comment, and then I think there is the secondary part of requesting that the MOA do something similar. But we can only request the MOA do something similar. I think we can also act independently of that, and well, not independently, but we can act as a body as well, and also send a public comment to DOT. So actually, it's sort of two letters. One letter stating our general position of we still object to the lease and it should be to the north, and then the second one is to basically send it to the MOA and argue the same thing, that they should make that case.
Okay, so are you suggesting an amendment to the original motion?
That's how I would do it. Yes.
Okay. Yes. Wait, I think I saw this hand first.
No, I don't have a question relating to the amendment. No.
Okay. Yes.
This is just process, but again, for the record, I have a lease at the airport. I own an airplane. I use the airport. In a previous meeting, it was determined not a conflict of interest, but I'm putting it here in case it needs to be discussed again before we dive into this or before I say anything.
Okay.
I'm not totally sure on the process, so I'm being conservative.
Thank you. Let me follow along with that. I know that it was already decided, but let me just review a couple questions from the disclosure of the potential conflict of interest question, so we can cross out T's and dot on this. Okay. You have already provided a detailed description of your interest. Is there anything different tonight than what you provided before? Okay. The key question here is often comes down to is interest financial or personal? Right. And you are the one who holds the, okay. And when did the interest arise?
2020-ish.
Okay. Have there been any changes since you last disclosed this and the nature of your interest or, okay. Then I'm gonna rule as the chair that you can participate in this and vote in this, that you do not have a conflict of interest as for this matter, for parcel H in particular. Okay, does anyone want to talk about that? Do we have any challenges to the ruling of the chair? Okay, so now we have the question of, can we address this as one motion? And so we have a amendment.
So the motion now is 2 letters, one to DOT and one to the municipality of Anchorage, essentially both saying the same thing.
It isn't yet because that has not been seconded.
Okay.
Or that has not been approved. So we need the first person who made the motion to agree to the amendment.
To have 2 parties.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm agreeable to that,
Okay.
yes.
Then the one who seconded that, was that, now I've lost track.
Well, Margaret has her hand up.
I've lost track,
But
yes.
Brian was trying to put the item on the agenda.
Yeah.
So I kind of made a motion, but it was really to put a discussion item on the agenda.
So we have, okay. All right.
I think I can help.
Yes.
So we have a motion on the table, which I believe is just to add action item number 10, which has to do with parcel H onto the agenda.
So I'm going to do.
So that was made by Brian and seconded, I think, by Mike. And so I think we're waiting to formally do that, which does take a higher bar from GBOS. So I don't know what the outcome of that vote will be. It seems like probably we can vote on that and then we can figure out what the 2 items are.
Okay, so we will vote on adding this item to the agenda. All right. Boy, but I understand it's a higher bar, but I prefer to do this by assent. Do we have any?
I think that would meet the high bar.
Okay. Okay, so we have no objections to adding this to the agenda. All right, now we need a motion for the letters.
Well, I think you could just talk about it and maybe then make motions.
Okay.
Instead of making motions and then amending them. So maybe you guys can discuss it.
We should talk about it, but okay. Anyway, go. Yes.
Question for staff. Do you have the letter that we previously wrote? Is it available that maybe we could pull it up and put it online? And so my question is can we just basically tweak the letter that we wrote originally?
Right there.
And send it off, or is that just bad?
Let me just, I'd like to touch base with our community representatives here, but I'm gonna hazard a guess that if I remember correctly from writing this letter, the interest might be in specifically calling out the airport master plan and drawing attention to that, but you can address this if there's something you'd like.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, we're trying to narrow it down, just like you're saying. I mean, honestly, it could be just a few sentences.
Okay.
Yeah, because that other letter was very detailed and I thought very good.
Just for the sake of it, what would the sentences be if you were just writing it? I mean, generally speaking, like what's the content that you're requesting?
We'd be asking for any updates from perhaps the legal department or the planning department, which there may not be any. We just haven't heard. And then also just that we urge the municipality to require the DOT to follow their Girdwood Airport master plan, which states development to the north and helicopter operations to the north. And ideally, the city would say that the land use permit would be contingent on that. That's pretty direct, but I'll just go ahead and say that's what we're hoping for.
So, no, that's okay. I have some thoughts about that it might be best if we're asking for updates that is on our under new business, we have agenda items, and it seems like in terms of asking for updates, we generally get better and more thorough answers with combining that with our MOA meeting, joint meetings with the MOA, unless we need, I mean, I understand time is of the essence on all of this, but generally speaking, when we're asking for updates, we don't do that in the form of a resolution letter, but I'm sorry, yes. Well,
I just want to put a cautionary word in. I totally get and support where you're coming from. And the issue with the airport master plan is 20 years old. So I think there are other issues in the master plan that we would not want, implemented right now, potentially. I don't have it memorized, but like telling DOT they need to comply with their master plan could be a slippery slope. And so from my perspective, it's update your master plan before you approve anything. And then let the master plan speak. Just before we really understand the implications of asking for them to demand adherence to the plan, we need to understand the plan as it relates to something larger than parcel H, is my belief about due diligence about that sentence.
Okay, let me see if we have any other comments or statements about this from the board. Thoughts? Okay.
So I do see that the previous letter that we wrote will not be appropriate at all.
It's pretty
So,
thorough.
Yeah, exactly. So we would be crafting a completely new letter tonight.
Hopefully not crafting it tonight, approving,
Yeah.
approving the crafting
Yeah.
tonight and approving the essence of what we would like it to say. Brianna, did you have something to say? No, but Mike, yes, Mike.
Thank you. Yeah, I think the letter as a public comment to DOT is essentially this proposal is a significant change from the existing airport master plan. We would request that a change of this size at least has an area master plan update, so an airport plan update. So I think that's step one, and not approve, basically rescind the lease. And secondly, that the Girdwood comprehensive plan, which we believe is applicable, talks about development at the airport, which is consistent with uses in the immediate neighborhood, and obviously building immediately next to, within a few feet of, is not consistent with existing neighborhood. So basically those two arguments would be saying we don't agree with the increase, we don't agree with parcel H at all. That would be our comment to the DOT. I think there's a slightly more nuanced argument with the MOA. The MOA's position is they need to see an application before they can do anything. So they can't do anything until they get an application, and they haven't received one yet. So there's a little bit of all they've done preemptively is just remind the leaseholder that they do expect to see an application, and I believe will issue a stop work order if they do not.
Okay, so let me just summing up there. Are you arguing then that there's not necessarily a need for a letter to the MOA at this juncture?
I think we can do it with, we can have direct communication with the MOA, or do it at the do it at our regular meeting, because I don't think that the MOA's comments need to go through a public comment. They're not a public entity in this sense.
Right. Okay. Yes. Wait, let me check with Brianna.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Mike, and thank you, Chair. I just tag on to what Mike said about our potential conclusions, but also then finally conclude that we do not recommend amending the lease or disagree with amending the lease for all the reasons that he cited. And then agreeing that a letter to the muni is a different audience. This is the public comment letters, and we could send something to them to remind them that this is happening, but I don't know if the liaison could do that, or it has to be an official letter, but that opportunity, the 28th, is great, but right now it's public comment. I think that's it. Thank you.
Okay, yes, Kelly.
Yeah, and I guess it's just if we're doing the public comment as a board, then my perspective is it should be specific to what's being welcomed for comments. So we could send another email about update or whatever letter about updates and whatnot, but like if we're commenting publicly, we should comment publicly on the item that they're open for public comment. I believe that's a more powerful engagement.
Brent.
I just wanted to second what Kelly said about being careful about making requesting following the current master plan that is out of date, and being careful what we ask for on this without fully understanding the master plan as it is right now. And but I would like to, I do like what Mike had to say about requesting not approving the lease or the amendment before a master plan update.
Okay, and
Just to highlight, the last thing that Mike said also was to refer to our new area plan. That's all.
Yes.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, so like what I'm hearing is a statement that says, we don't agree with parcel H anyhow. We thus don't agree with expanding parcel H. I forget what Brian just had another good one. I'm just trying to synthesize what I'm hearing. And I just failed, my brain can't keep up.
Well, so the other part that I have heard is we want to make that for any development of this size or just.
A development of this size should trigger an update of the airport master plan, which is critical from my perspective anyways, in light of this airport. And like the big hangar complex that I'm a part of doesn't exist on the master plan. So like, and they let that whole thing go in without doing a master plan update, just as a point of context, right? Like it's very much aligned with the way they've been operating. That, I mean, that's a 13 hangar complex, no master plan. So in their world, this is small potatoes with regard to master plan. They've just, anyway, so there's an argument that says that I think it's fair game to request that they update the master plan and receive community input for development at the airport, because it's consistent with what we're trying to do with the comprehensive plan and everything else. And it's a mechanism by which public comment would likely be able to be formalized for parcel H and for the hotel and for the area further north of the hotel that could be the site of future developments. And the road from the new village. I mean, there's a lot happening in Girdwood that is nowhere on that plan, which probably is becoming a real issue, not to have a formal process integrated on.
Okay. Well, I would agree with your initial synthesis. And then I also think, oh, sorry, Mike, I didn't see you had your hand up.
No, that's fine. You go ahead. I'll comment after you.
Okay, I was just gonna say, I did want to have one comment about interacting with the Muni, which is that I know it sounds like we're putting things off until the 28th, but not necessarily, because the way this has been working is we're sending our agenda items to them ahead of time. And so if we officially ask for an update, then also the co-chairs have been meeting with the Muni ahead of time, but prior to the meetings. So that's actually something that would happen sooner than it sounds. It's not like it just falls into their lap on the 28th that we expect. We hope, we don't expect, but we hope for answers then, because we have put in the requests, we've talked to them about why we're asking, and so we hope for answers, but yes.
So the Muni manager meeting is July 28th. And I think your deadline is sooner than that.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I meant as far as for the update question. I'm not asking for this is not about the DOT response. This is about the update from the Muni.
Oh, okay. I see.
Like we have kind of two different pots that are boiling. And what I'm trying to do is put one of them on the.
I thought the request was to have the Muni also respond in the public comment window on this item, which is, I think, closing on July 11th.
Okay.
I wanted to point out that there was the letter that went to the state, but there was one as well that went to the city. And I think that may be the last bullet point that went to the city. So it's a different document. I'm gonna go back and open up the one below it, letter to MOA regarding parcel H. And so the last bullet might be something that is helpful in your letter to the state, perhaps.
Thank you. Mike, can we circle back to you?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I think the general argument, I think here, the difference between the 13 hangar construction at the top was that although that project wasn't outlined, it was consistent with the general thrust and the general principles of the airport layout plan, its development to the north. This goes completely against that, and it guarantees conflict with the immediate residential neighborhood in the way that arguably the hotel would because of traffic, but in principle, if there was just another hangar there, it wouldn't create the same level of conflict. The 13 hangar structure doesn't. There's a lot of projects which are consistent with the general thrust of the airport master plan. This, however, is very, very different and goes against the thrust of the airport master plan. So that's why I think something this significant should at least be preceded by an update to the master plan. If the intent is to have development right up against residential housing, then that is very different from the current plan, and we should be aware of that.
Yes.
This is a question for Mike, and probably I should know this already, but specifically, I don't have the Girdwood comprehensive plan memorized. So what is the specific way that parcel H development is contradictory to what was passed in the Girdwood comprehensive?
It's fairly general, the language in there, but it says consistent with best use of the airport and consistent with, I can't remember the exact language, but it basically says it's got to be consistent with neighboring uses. So we can pull that up and look at it, but it is.
That's not overwhelmingly binding language that is going to categorically. I mean, I can see development of parcel H being consistent with that language if I stand in another position on the court quite easily. So I'm not sure how much we gain by demanding adherence to that because we've seen them uni. Anyways, we'll leave that.
Sorry. DOT's position is they don't care because they can do what they want at the airport. They don't have to follow any comprehensive plans or local code. So we know that's, it's not an argument they're going to necessarily follow, but that's the position we have, and that's the position the advice we've effectively indirectly received from the legal team in the Muni is. So it's a perfectly valid argument to make, even if they disagree with it. But yeah, you're right. It does not say that there shall be no development of parcel H. It's more intent and directional language, but it's also supportive of the idea of continuing development to the north, which is what the airport layout plan also says, or the airport master plan also says. So.
Right, if I may, we have spent a fair amount of time discussing this. Sorry, yes, Grant.
Oh, I'm happy to move on. Just if it's germane to the supervisor's question, Steve has the exact language from, I think, the plan. If you don't, please don't.
It's 3 bullet points.
Sure.
It just says, policy T51 says support development at Girdwood Airport that recognizes community, sense of place, and natural environment. So that's why we feel like, with the noise.
Yep.
So it's community, sense of place, and natural environment.
Okay. So in the interest in moving forward and also in time, here's what I would like to do with the approval of the board. I would like to move forward to start with a motion specifically about a letter to DOT responding to this public comment. I'd like to start there, and then we can discuss afterwards if we also do a Muni one. But I'd like to separate those two things out. So let's see if we can move forward with a DOT letter. If anyone has a motion that they would like.
I'll make a motion. So I move that we write a public comment to DOT in response to this notice, objecting to an increase of the lease area parcel H and also objecting to the lease of parcel H on the basis of the discussions we've already had and requesting an update to the airport master plan before they go ahead with such a significant change in use pattern.
Second.
Okay. Do we have any further discussion just about that? So far,
Thank you, everyone. Discussions.
it was very helpful. Yes.
Just a clarification, this would be one where we go away and write it and then we get 24 hours to approve it.
Yes, we are not writing it tonight.
Fantastic.
What? Making a decision right now.
Facilitation chair.
We're not doing that. Discussed it at length. Okay, do we have any further discussion or any other questions?
I think you should, or we need to clarify who's writing it. Even though it could be the.
I thought about that, but I think, do we want, I think we pass it first and then we figure out who's writing it, or how does that work?
I'm fine too.
Let's figure out if we're doing it first and then we'll figure out who has to carry the ball. Okay. Let's do it. Let's actually just do a roll call vote on this.
Okay. Brian Burnett,
Yes.
Kelly Ockenick,
Yes.
Brianna Sullivan,
Yes.
Mike Edgington,
Yes.
Jennifer Wingard.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right, now who's writing it? I believe that Mike and I are the ones who coordinated on the last one. And is the board comfortable with that again, or does somebody else want this ball? You can absolutely have it. And Mike, are you comfortable with doing that again?
Yeah, I submit myself as tribute.
May the games be ever in your favor.
Well, that's good because I was already pushing you that direction, so that's fantastic. Okay. Next thing, we need a separate, do we want or need a separate muni action? Do we have any motions connected to further action on parcel? Okay. Okay, in that case, I'm going to move on. If we have no motions for further action on parcel H. New business, reviewing agenda topics for MOA GBOS quarterly meeting.
Go there.
Okay.
That's the last page. What it is just the agenda from there. The agenda from your last meeting. To help guide. Obviously, we're talking about item number 2. The airport land, municipal zoning and planning requirements.
So I think based on our conversation, we have a specific, and again, please, board members, correct me if I'm wrong about this, but we are specifically requesting any updates about parcel H. So we want to be a little explicit about looking for updates about that. From either legal or planning.
Do we test them anything about our contract, lease contract, or update them?
The police contract?
Should that be an item we even mention or ask questions about?
I don't think so. I mean, it's a pretty standard. If you guys approve the renewal, it's just a standard issue that we go through with purchasing.
I only asked because I was curious and told that by Chief O'Shea that certain ordinances WPD cannot enforce unless they're authorized by the muni to enforce. Like parking, they are authorized to enforce parking in Girdwood, so they do. But certain other things that he could provide maybe at a different meeting, he cannot.
Yeah, that has to do with the prosecution. So we as a parking ordinances, they work with the Anchorage Parking Authority and they process all citations for parking ordinance violations. But when you get into specific muni ordinances that aren't covered in state, they don't work with the municipal prosecutors. They work with the state prosecutors under their jurisdiction. And so, and nobody else besides the Anchorage Police Department is allowed to enforce those municipal ordinances under code. So code and charter would have to be changed to accommodate for Whittier to start enforcing special ordinances. And this probably is in relation to e-bikes in that aspect. And it would be interesting to see how they enforce e-bikes in Anchorage and the process they go through there in that aspect, because we could even go through all the exercises of doing it and the municipal prosecutor may not pick it up because it's just workload. And so there may not be a process to do that. And so yeah, when we get into those finer ordinances, if we want to get that in, we have to go through assembly approval process like we did for the parking ordinance. And that could take us quite a bit of time.
Thank you, Brad. And through the chair, may I just comment further would be making consistent that we are serving our community in safety with ordinances that they can enforce. But one new ordinance is the new having fires that now the municipality can charge people with can't think of the word, but with your police department, like you can't call Chief Weston about it. The Whittier Police is supposed to be called, but then I don't know if they can actually enforce fire.
Oh, for unauthorized burns.
Yes.
Okay. So it sounds like you're requesting an item about discussing the ordinances and the odd position that we're in with.
Right, and I could ask Chief Weston after this meeting, we can amend the agenda. It's just one thing that
Well, this is, yeah,
I'm curious about.
this is new business, so we can, but I think it's good to flesh that out a little bit. Thank you for bringing that up. And I think that based on our previous conversation tonight, we need to still have short-term rental regulations underneath and specifically requesting updates about any changes or proposals that are coming down the pipeline and reiterating the points that Mike brought up about one, needing to know what we're putting in, and two, needing some revenues back to the community to mitigate STR effects. So does anyone else have anything else to say about number 3? I'm proposing keeping that on and specifically requesting updates. I don't know if we need anything from number 1 that was originally, I believe that was covered, but if I'm mistaken about that, let me know. Does anyone have any? And then I did have some requests for adding, I need to know if we are missing any updates about the requests we've made, for example, to the watershed department about the watershed management. Like, is it time to circle back to the community about any of that, or have we gotten all the answers we're going to get?
I think we've gotten all the answers we're going to get.
Okay.
So, yep.
And then we also had a question about the Timberline financing project, right? Like,
yeah, I think that's a good thing to keep on there, talking about how we find actual, raising funds for large capital projects.
All right.
I think this ties right back to the bed tax.
Yeah, it does. That's okay. All right. Any other comments about, and I think we got the answers we were going to get about tsunami signs, didn't we? Or are we circling back on it?
Yeah, it sounds like there is a person working through that process. So,
okay. All right.
I actually heard, I was at a presentation by the EOC and they talked about tsunami signs coming soon in Girdwood. This is a muni-wide presentation.
Okay.
All right. Do we have any other comments or questions about the agenda for the MOE-GBOS meeting?
So just to summarize, we'll drop items 1, 4, and 5. Oh, and 6. 1, 4, and 6.
I think so, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
And then we have some clarifications on some of the other ones.
Yep.
And then we'll confirm this agenda at your next meeting.
Yes. Okay, excellent.
Motion to adjourn.
All right. We're moved to adjourn. We're adjourned.
Thank you, everybody. Good night, everybody.
Right on.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Hmm.